Yo, what's going on? Today I'm talking with Erika Kemp, pro runner for Brooks, who is fresh off of a second place finish at the Houston Marathon. She finished at a time of 2:22:56, which is not only an 11-minute PB for Erika, but also improves on the record she already held as the fastest American-born Black woman. Today we'll talk about her relationship with this record, her detailed race recap, and we'll also, of course, go over some of her favorite shoes. Good morning, Erika. Thank you for taking some time with us today. Congratulations on your new PB in Houston. How are you feeling today, a few days out now from the race?
I'm actually feeling pretty good. A lot better than I expected to feel, and 1,000 times better than after my first marathon 2 years ago. So, feeling good right now.
Excellent. So glad to hear that. I'm especially excited to talk to you today because I think this is the first time that we've actually sat down to speak. And I've been watching you race for several years now, from 5Ks in New York, the half marathon in Houston, and then getting a chance to see you coming down kind of the home stretch in Houston again. It was really exciting to give you a perspective on my view of it. I had run the half, and then I was coming out to cheer on the marathon finishers. I saw what I thought was the lead woman, and then you were right behind her, and I was like, oh, she's in second place. This is amazing. And you looked so strong. Like it didn't look to me like you were at mile 25. You looked like you were putting in a push and charging ahead. So it was really just like incredible to be able to see that, to see you looking so strong at the end of a race. Did you feel really strong at the end of the race?
Yeah,
okay.
I did not feel that good. From 22 to 25 was pretty rough.
Okay.
I was really mentally just trying to have a great last 10K. It's something my coach told me to think about because the end goal one of these days is to really compete with the best of the best. And if you've seen any of the major finishes, any of the Olympic or World Championship finishes, that last 5K is not people walking it in. So mentally I was trying to have the strongest last 5K I could, but I was definitely feeling just the fatigue and the distance. But once I got to 25 and you're so close to the finish and the crowds were so good, I found the energy to push a little more that last mile.
I'd love to get a more detailed race recap. So if we could, I'd love to fast forward to the beginning of the race, all the way up to kind of the morning of, the warm-ups and being in the starting corrals. You train in Providence, so you're used to running in the wintertime, but this is cold for racing conditions. What were your thoughts going into the race, getting out there, trying to just get the body warmed up?
Yeah, it was definitely colder than I would have preferred it to be, but thankfully it wasn't the coldest temperatures we had to do anything in this build-up. We did have plenty of days where we did our tempos in very similar conditions, which was not enjoyable, but also it's not going to kill you. So kind of having that experience was really nice because I got over it really fast. Because when you first step out of that tent and get blasted by a gust of very cold air, you're I don't want to do this. But I think I was super excited for this weekend because I knew if we got it right, it could be really good. That excitement and even those nerves kind of kept me warm, especially because I'm not super used to warming up for a marathon. It's only a 10-minute jog. And I asked my friend who was pacing me, what do I do? Because it's also really cold out. So I don't want to tear something on the start because I'm shivering. He was just do some extra skips, do some extra jumps, but we're not going to run anymore because you have 26 miles to do this morning. So yeah, just literally bouncing around and jumping around until the gun went off.
So how is your warm-up different than for when you're getting ready for a 5K or 10K on the roads? I don't know that you've done a lot of racing in these kind of temperatures for those distances, but 10 minutes for a warm up, before a marathon, that does not sound like the way to warm up for a 5K, or am I wrong on that?
No, you're so right. 10 minutes is nowhere near enough for a 5K. But even for a half marathon, I would still do 20 to 25 minutes of jogging. And then depending on how short and fast your race is probably how hard your strides are. For a half, I wouldn't do too many super hard strides. I would probably do a handful of longer ones, but for a 5 and a 10, when that first mile can be really fast with everyone like getting off the line. You want to make sure you're really warmed up. So lots of quick little sprints, lots of jumps, just like very dynamic. And then the marathon warm up's a lot less dynamic and more just kind of like making sure you're not going to hurt yourself, but also like you're going to warm up in the race because it's so long.
Tell me a little bit about the starting line and like the moment that the gun goes off. It seemed to, I mean, the chatter from, people who were in Houston was that like the front of the race got really congested, and that there was a little bit of kind of contact going on trying to get off of the line. Is that something that you experienced, or tell me what it was like for you to start?
Yeah, I didn't miss the start because I was standing right on the start line, so I like literally couldn't have missed it, but I definitely wasn't paying attention to like the cues of like the countdown. So the gun did catch me off guard a little bit, which was like kind of nice. But I think just because I'm really small, I didn't feel too much contact just because I don't need a ton of space. But it definitely was like very quickly like pretty packed up. But I think that's because it was super windy and like cold and we start in the dark. So everyone was just kind of like fighting to be kind of on the inside of that. So you're not like braving the elements in the dark for those first few miles.
And you said that you had a pacer running with you?
Mm-hmm.
What was the plan like off the line in terms of like where you're going to try to run with people, run for time? Like what was the approach?
Yeah, having my friend there was super nice because it just gave us so many options and was really just like a great peace of mind that like no matter what we really felt like doing or how the race shook out, I would always like have someone to run with. But it kind of worked out like ideally for us where the top women were running an effort that I thought was like doable for me, because the more race like it was, the better I was going to perform, because that's much more motivating for me than like straight up chasing a time. So it was like really nice to have like those Ethiopian women there.
Nutrition wise, what were you thinking for the plan? Like bottles and gels, like how did that get laid out for you?
Yeah, so Houston does 7 fueling stations every 5K, starting at 5K, going through 35K, which is like a bit more often than I would do in practice. Like I prefer every like 4-ish miles, but my coach did make me practice every 3 in my last couple of workouts, which I thought was crazy because I always do 4, but he was like, you're doing 3 today. And we just kind of like ran with it. And then it turned out Houston was 5K, so I'm glad we practiced on 3. But I did miss my first bottle, but it had one of my caffeine gels. And that was like, in my head, I know that like at some point I'm going to skip some. Like I'm not taking 7 gels and I don't handle a ton of liquid very well. So like I have to take at least like 5 of my gels or like I'm going to bonk pretty hard at the end. And I was like, early and often is like a good way to go about fueling, because when you get in the later stages, you just don't feel like it. But if you get enough in like the first 2/3 of the race, you can afford to kind of like not take in as much towards the end. So when I missed that first one, I like thought about it for a couple seconds and then I went back and got it, which my coach would not have been happy about. And when I told him yesterday, he was like, I wish you didn't tell me this. And I was like, no, it's like great, because like that's so much time we can make up. Like if I just don't do that. But it was also nice mentally because like I literally stopped, turned around, went back, grabbed it, like put it in my pocket, and then like caught back up to the group, but like very calmly. Like I didn't panic. I just like worked my way back up to the group, and we still split like 5:20 in that mile. And I was like, oh, we're fine. Like I'm literally like messing around and I feel fine. And like it almost like helped that like something went so sideways so early, because it just like got all of the nerves out right away.
Okay, because I could easily see that going the other direction where you're like, I don't know, I got caught off guard by the gun and I know I dropped my first bottle. Like, were you that calm really throughout the entire race, or was like how did you maintain that composure?
Yeah, I think after that I really settled, because I was like realized how like quick of a start we got, but I was like feeling really like into it, and the lead women were all together through like almost 30K, which was really nice because like it's just such a long way to go, and that's still pretty new for me, just like a long time to race and like be engaged. So having all of them there for so long I really didn't have to like think too much or stress too much. You're just like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I need to keep contact. And like there were times where they would kind of pick up the pace, but Jonas and I just ran like very even splits. So there were moments where we caught up. There was like moments where we were leading. There were moments where we were like 10 meters behind them, but just always kind of having them like in contact or in like eyesight was really nice and definitely like helped me, have something to think about for that long.
Now, is that a decision that you're making on the fly, or is that something that you had planned beforehand? Like, if they end up like picking it up at mile 15, we're gonna let it go, or how does that work?
Yeah, I talked about it with my coach the day before because the like top end of the field that they had was ideal for me. It was like four women with PBs and like the low 220s, which was like exactly what we were trying to do. So he was like, if you feel like it's too much, like obviously back off, but also like enjoy the race and, just be a part of it because it'll make it feel like a lot better and a lot more exciting.
But like, how do you like see them, like three of them go and you're like, well, I think they're going to come back to me. Like, do you do research on the runners ahead of time, or like, how are you figuring that out? Or it's just like, this is our plan. I'm good here. Let's stay.
As far as definitely not research on them, and you never really know how anyone's feeling, but that part of it's just like hoping for the best. You're just like, you see that you're 10 miles in and you have 16 to go, and you're like, I could probably make up that gap. Is like when they would start to pull away, I'd be like, we have so much time and like so much space. Like I could make up that gap if they don't come back. But yeah, you just know you have so much time that like unless they're out of eyesight, they're not really like pulling ahead of you.
Now, you've run the half marathon in Houston twice, and this was your first time running the full marathon there. Did you have to, or did you do any course recon, or did you feel like I've been to Houston, I understand how it is? Like, what was the prep like for the course specifically for you?
Yeah, didn't do any course recon, so it was super exciting when we made that turn at 8 miles where like split off to the marathon, and I actually like took that turn this year. But everything beyond that I'd never seen before, which is kind of nice. And I have always run really well at a lot of the events I go to when I'm there for the first time because you don't have anything. So you're not like anticipating any turns or any, super windy patches. You're like, I have no idea what's coming. So like, it's always new. It's always exciting. I was I was always told that Houston's super flat, but in the marathon, there's like some ramp you run like all the way up before you like do like a U-turn and come all the way back down it. But no one told me about this. I mean, I guess I could have looked at a course map, but in the moment, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, there's one hill.
Yeah.
It's in almost the exact middle. You go over like an overpass, and then you have to do like a hairpin turn. It's a very weird.
It was so funny because I just like had no idea like it was coming up or even like existed. So I'm running up, and I was like, this has to be it. Like,
yeah.
And then you get to the top, and you're like, all right, we made it to the top, and there's all like the signs on the course that are like, you did it, you're at the top, and then you literally just turn around, and I was like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, see, for me, I feel like, I think that's a nice approach to have on it, is to be excited for courses that you don't know what's coming in a way, or you don't have that experience. Because I know from my 2 times, I've run the full once and the half twice in Houston. And I know once that half and full splits, that part for me is always the hardest part. Because it's like there was so many more people running in this group a minute ago. And now I feel like I'm by myself and I'm worried because I'm stuck between groups. And so that part always kind of gives me dread, even when I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
So I can definitely relate to the idea of like, well, I don't know what to expect, so we're just going to go for it.
Yeah.
So for the race, let's talk about the shoes a little bit. I think I know what you were running in. Can you tell us what you were running in officially?
Yeah, I was running in a prototype of the next Hyperion Elite that's coming out fall of 25. I don't know if that means August or September, but later in 25.
Okay. And how was that shoe for you?
It was great. It's super similar to the one that's coming out in a couple weeks, which is the one I had been racing in for like all of 24. Like I set my PB at the VA 5K in it. I won and set a PB in the Boston Women's 10 in it. It's what I wore for Houston Half last year. And they both have that Piba sole. I'm not like super techie on shoes, so like I don't really know what that means, but I know it feels incredible.
And so that shoe that you had run in the BAA 5K and then the 10K, that was that the 4 PB?
Yes.
How was that in terms of like, well, I've had success with this other one, I'm going to try this other prototype for this marathon. What was the decision like there?
Yeah, I think it wasn't for me about like running faster, if that makes sense, because like I'd done faster workouts and run faster and like things in the 4 PB, but there's just something about the way the 5 like fits me that I just like prefer a little bit better. And it's literally, that's like such like a personal thing versus like a performance thing. It just like reminds me a lot of the fit of the Hyperion 2, which is like my all-time favorite shoe. Like if my house was on fire and I could only take one pair of shoes with me, like I'm taking that one. And for me, the 5 is just like a little closer of a fit to that shoe specifically.
Okay. And so while we're on the subject of shoes, though, I feel like you've been with Brooks for a little while now, and I feel like you hit them at like the exact right moment where the product really like started to make a lot of changes, and at least from my perspective, like they've made some really great improvements. Can you tell us a little bit about like the shoes that you're reaching for on like a day-to-day or week-to-week basis as you're getting ready for your marathons?
Yeah. I do all of my like easy miles in the Glycerin 21. I'm super stoked because the 22 comes out in like a week or two, but it's just like so cozy and like my feet are like very happy when I put it on, especially when you're just like doing a lot of hard things. Like I said earlier, like the Hyperion 2 is my go-to for everything from strides to hills to medium long runs. I do any intervals up to 2 miles in them. I'll do up to 8 miles of work in them. If it's more than like 8 miles worth of work, I will wear the Hyperion Max 2 just to like have a little bit more cushion and protect the body a little more. And then if I feel like something is about to break or something's like really bothering me, I'll wear the Ghost Max 2 because it's just like light and like sturdy, but like it doesn't feel like clunky. And I'm like just a small person, so sometimes like the Max shoes feel kind of funny because I just like, I don't know if I don't weigh enough or I don't put enough force into the ground, but you see those videos of like foam compressing under like the robots and like these guys, and I just don't have that experience because like I don't think I put enough force into the ground to get that benefit. So I've always been like a normal Ghost, a normal Glycerin girl.
I'm actually going to go on a run with the Ghost Max 2 for the first time later today. It's like the next on my list. So, well, I loved the first one. I thought it was great, and I was hoping for number 2 that they didn't really change much because I'm like the first one was excellent. So
they really didn't. I think the 2 just looks better.
Okay, so got good news.
It's super
good news
enjoyable.
To my ears.
Yeah.
So Glycerin 22. Is there something about the update? Have you tried the update?
I haven't. I will this weekend.
Okay.
Honestly, I hope they didn't change much because the 21 was like the love of my life.
Okay. The Glycerin and I haven't always got along, but I felt like the last one, I was like, all right, this is getting more into territory where I like it. I do have a pair of the 22. I haven't. It's on the list behind the Ghost Max 2, but it's on the list in the testing schedule soon. But we'll see what updates they have for that one. And so this weekend you're going to try, what are you doing this weekend where you're going to be trying it? I think I saw somewhere you got a work trip coming up.
Yeah, where some of the Brooks road racing athletes are getting together with like some of the Brooks team from Seattle and San Diego just to get some warm weather, do some footwear stuff, chat, check in, talk about product, and get some sun in the middle of winter.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah,
it was,
could not be better timing.
It was like -3 degrees when I woke up here in Illinois today.
That's a no.
Yeah, so I could use some warm weather. Let's go back to the race for a minute, though, because you had mentioned that you were running with the lead pack of women for a long time, but by the time that I saw you at mile 25, the leader, she had put a little bit of a distance on you. Can you tell me a little bit about when that happened and kind of like how much space you were aware of that you had between the leader and then also the runner behind you.
I wish I knew when the leader broke off because she was also with some of like the development guys, and it was also during like some of the windier stretches. So like I wasn't really looking because it was super sunny and super windy. So you just like genuinely can't see because I wasn't wearing like glasses or anything. But it definitely like could just feel them kind of creating space somewhere around 30K, maybe just like a hair after that. And then I noticed that like I couldn't see the lead vehicle anymore. And I was like, oh, the leader's like gone. But I could still see the women who got third and fourth for like quite a while. And maybe around like 35K or so, they came back like a lot. And then they were like running with me. And I was like, okay, like we have a race for like second and third. But then they kind of just continued to like fall back a little bit, and I just like continued to try to pick it up a little bit, but I never saw the lead woman again. So I was like, I don't know where she is, but she's gone. But then as I got towards the finish, people on the course kept saying that like she's so close, and I was like, where is she? Like I should see like a truck with her with like lights and clocks, and like there should be like 6 bikes somewhere around here, and I never saw her again. And then get to the finish, she was like 2 minutes ahead of me. It's like 2 minutes is a lot to make up when you have like 3 miles left. But like I wish I could have.
Yeah, but I mean, I think though, like by the time where I saw you on the course, which is like in between mile 25 and 26, I think after the 40K mark, right at that point is where all the bikes turn off. And so like the lead vehicles all turn off there. So when you're on that like kind of really long final stretch,
yes,
the vehicles are already gone. So
I think that's why it felt like she was so far away, because like you can't really see like individual people that far down the road, especially because it was so sunny. But I didn't see the vehicles, so I was like, I think she finished like 10 minutes ago. Like she looked great.
But I think you had a nice tailwind though this year, because sometimes coming down that last stretch, it's a headwind. I think 2 years ago it was a vicious headwind. What's it like riding a tailwind on a good day when you're having a really just like fantastic race result? What's that feeling like?
I mean, it feels like you're floating, because you're like, the dream is to be coming into the marathon finish, not like crawling and passing out and just like feeling good enough to actually enjoy what you just did for 26 point whatever miles. So having that little push from Mother Nature at the end was like very nice.
And then afterwards you come in second. And then they put a flag around your shoulders, and you've been on the podium before. But for those of us who are never going to be on a podium like that, no one's ever going to hand us a flag. Can you tell us what that feeling is like?
It's cool because at first I was like a hair confused because I was like, I didn't win. But it was like, oh, like you were second and you're top American. And a lot of those races do like flags for like the whole podium, and like that Houston always does, like top American. So I was like, oh, like this is really cool. But it is like a lot because they do it as soon as you finish, and you're like, I just finished a marathon. Like I'm not 100% like coherent right now. Like I haven't caught my breath. My soul is somewhere out on the course. Like it's all still catching up to you, and they're trying to like drape this thing around you. But it's super exciting. It's like such a good feeling to just like, when they hand you a flag, you're just like, I did something good today.
And then did you get a chance to jog out and say hi to any of the spectators at the finish line?
They asked me if I wanted to, and I said no because I was so tired. They were up on the bridge with like the cameras, and they took all the photos, and then like the race people were like, oh, like do you want to like go jog out? And I was like, no. I want to sit down like right now.
Were you were just frigid cold at that point too, or
I wasn't too
or you just
cold.
numb at that point?
I was done running. Like I could have been done anywhere from 18 to the finish, and I was super happy that like I had the strength to like keep going and run as fast as I did in those last 8 miles. But I was like very happy to be still, and like had no desire to run a single step further.
So as you were coming down the finishing chute, though, you would have seen the clock, and you would have known that you were, and even before then, you would have known you were well under. your time from your first marathon in Boston. 11 minutes over your time previously. It's an impressive improvement. Was that a surprise to you? What were some of the thoughts going through your mind as you're seeing the clock?
I was stoked, but like it was what I wanted. Like I wanted a 10-minute PB. One, because it sounds incredible and is like kind of funny because that's just like an absurd amount of time to take off at once. But also just because I didn't feel like my first one was really reflective of what I could do in the marathon. It just wasn't my best day, but it was my debut, but it was still like a good day and like a historic day. So you can't like be too upset about it, but for 2 years I kind of had to just like sit with that time on my like running resume, knowing that like it wasn't reflective of what I could do. So it was like very exciting to like see the clock coming down on straightaway and being like, oh, thank God, like we did it.
And so that historic day you're talking about was in your debut. You set the record for the fastest American-born Black woman at 2:33, and then you improved on it by 11 minutes. Is that something that you think about a lot during training, or is that something that is important to you kind of like outside of the training? Like, tell me what is your relationship with that record?
Yeah. I mean, it's not something I think about like every single day, but like having a performance like that, I think it just like raises the bar. Like when I went and ran like 2:33 high, we had women in the next couple of years like creeping up to that, running like Ari Hendricks, running like 2:35, and like other women like creeping closer. So I think it's super exciting because they were super excited to, climb that list. And I think this does even more to just kind of like push that further and like encourage more people to run and just like, the sky's the limit. So I think it's really cool to just kind of keep raising the bar because like, yes, the list is 3 hours, but we are amazing and, we can climb even higher.
I mean, you set the bar way high though. Like 11 minutes, that's a lot more. That's a lot more bar that you set.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the training that got you to this 11-minute PB? I think that a lot of times for runners, it's we redid everything. We rethought everything from the ground up, and a lot of times it's no, we just did the exact same thing. It just took 2 or 3 more times. Which one of those would you say that this last build was more like?
I'd say for sure the latter. Like I would say I had an incredible build for the trials a year ago. Just the trials didn't go my way. It wasn't my day. I felt terrible. And like at no point did I think it was like the training or the preparation we did. It was just a bad day. So we didn't change anything really. Like we just did the same stuff for another year, and now I'm seeing it pay off. And like even at the end of that build a year ago, I thought I'd made massive improvements and could run competitively and like make that team. And I just like didn't get to showcase it on race day, but we just did the same stuff for another year, and here we are like actually seeing the results. So it's just like staying the course really. Like we didn't change a whole lot. The only big change we made was before last year's build. We just shifted off of like a hard like 7-day schedule. Like instead of the traditional Tuesday, Friday, Sunday kind of thing, we just kind of do things whenever they make sense, but like purposefully built in more recovery days between workouts because that just seems to work super well for me. And just like don't even worry about, a weekly mileage goal, just like time on your feet and getting the sessions in where they fit best. And we've just been doing that for a while and it's working.
And so is that more of like a 9-day cycle almost, kind of like a hard day and then 2 easier days?
Yeah, I think it's closer to 9 or 10. Like I'll go up to like 2 or 3 weeks without having a long run just because it's not like up in the rotation yet. But there were times where I'd have 2 long runs like in a 7-day period because that's just kind of how it shook out. So we just make sure we're fully recovered by the next session. And that has like worked super, super well for me.
And then in terms of like I know you're not keeping a weekly mileage goal, but where would you say you kind of are? And if like the best you could do is like a lot more than some previous builds, that's fine too. But like, where would you say kind of like your volume is overall compared to some previous builds?
Yeah, for this one, it was a lot lower. Because we were doing like a lot of 10K stuff in the summer and in the fall, and I was traveling a bunch, and then we were gonna like have this like perfect 9-week build to Houston, but then I got hurt on the front side of that. So we kind of just like let the mileage go and just really focused on getting in all the sessions that we had planned and like the key workouts and long runs before the race. But we didn't force the mileage because at some point I had like a 30-mile week in November, and we're not going to jump from like 30 to 90 because that's crazy. So we just kind of let it be what it was. But typically I would be running in like the mid 80s with like a little wiggle room on either side. But I think because I've been doing that for years, we could afford to like have lower mileage in this build because like my lifetime mileage is there. And like that doesn't just disappear overnight if you like take a few days off or like have a few weeks when you're lower than your average, because like my lifetime mileage is like pretty good.
That takes a lot of faith, doesn't it, to trust the training like that?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like thinking about like Houston and like how we got here and like why it went so well and like answering all these like questions about it and reflecting. And a lot of it literally just came down to we really believed in the workouts we did. And like, they're like, how'd you do it on race day? It's like, I really thought I was going to have a great day, and like borderline just manifested it.
Just that simple.
Yeah.
You said you were going to have a great day and you did.
Yeah.
But I think there's more to it. There's so much more to it than that because you put in all that work and you had trust in the process and in your training. And from a fan's perspective, it's awesome to hear about and see when someone puts in the work, trusts and believes in it, and then it works out. It doesn't always happen that way, and so it's awesome to see when it does.
Yeah. I mean, like this time 2 years ago was when I was like first talking to like Brooks and Kurt and like making that huge switch. And like at the time, like I felt very confident that like that was the right move for like this marathon part of my career. And like I had a good like debut, and then I had like a bad run at the trials, but it never like shook my faith that like this was a support system I'm supposed to have, like this is the right coach for me. And it's really nice just to like see it all come together.
Well, thank you so much for your time and giving us a little bit more insight into your race and for the preparation for this race. Is there anything coming up on the calendar? Do you have a track season coming up, or are you fully committed to the roads at this point?
I never say never for the track, okay. But if I did anything, it would be really, really late summer. I'm excited to just take some time now and really do some like fun short road races in the summer before we get back to the long stuff in the fall.
All right, great. Well, if anyone wants to check out the shoes that Erika ran in all last year, I think finally you get a chance to try them in a couple weeks now.
Yeah.
And then we'll all eagerly await the chance to try the newest shoe that she ran in later in this summer as we all get ready for our fall marathons. And then I'll also post links to Erika's Instagram account down below so that you guys can follow her and then we can figure out together what your next races are going to be and we can cheer for you there.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for making it all the way to the end of this conversation. And make sure to head over to Instagram to follow Erika to make sure that you can get the latest updates directly from her on her upcoming race schedule.